This is Steve Zeltzer with WorkWeek. The issue of racism, discrimination, and bullying in the workplace is at epidemic proportions.
I'm W.D. Flint, and I'm a nurse. I'm a senior shop steward, and I've been with the city and county of San Francisco 20 years as of November 2019. And more recently, I've seen some recent drastic turn of events as far as accountability. There's increased racism, there's increased bullying. There are false documents being used. I was terminated last week with totally false accusations. And
you're the senior shop steward.
I'm the senior shop steward. And what was really amazing was that after I was terminated, and I was there in the meeting, Mr. Llewellyn Keller, who is a member of HR, and he's the one that writes up all the paperwork and, gets everybody to meetings and stuff like this. He wanted these 4 documents that he'd given us. Now, I had looked over the 4 documents, and I found there were some discrepancies and perhaps even some violations of federal law. Now, he insisted upon those. He sent me a couple of threatening emails. I did not return them, however, because I want them examined. The Department of Public Health is well known for discrimination, harassment, bullying. They will send false accusations against you, and people have been fired for those things, like I have. Now, I have a union that supposedly is going to take place to arbitrate this situation.
But was there any protest by the union of the firing of the senior shop steward at that facility? I mean, you've spoken out before and have been bullied before?
Yes, well, there has been no rally at this point. I've sent 3 emails, and they've been to Joe Bryant, who is the head of our union, and to the representative I have, Daniel Becker, and to several other union members, key union members. But to tell you about SEIU, right now we're going through a bit of turmoil because there are many union members that feel that they have not been treated fairly by the union. They have not had the union come and protect their rights according to the dues contract that they've been paying over the years. And so I sent this email out. The most recent one was 3 days ago. I have gotten no response. I was terminated last Thursday. I've gotten no response about them, knowing of this. So it's just a matter of seeing.
Do you have a union?
That is something that's kind of left a question for many of us,
I mean, if they're not even returning your emails.
If they're not returning my call, I might as well be sending the emails, out to Joe Blow. It doesn't matter, But it's really saddening to know that SEIU 10-1 claims so many support doctrines that we had. There are many other shop stewards that have gone through what I've gone through.
You were targeted and bullied.
Yes, much bullying. But getting back to when I joined as a shop steward, there was a room full of people that wanted to be shop stewards. They must have had close to 80 people. Okay, most of them are African American, because let's face it, we're the ones that have the most problem in DPH. We are targeted with some illegal things. If we speak up, automatically they're trying to terminate us or they're trying to penalize us. I've been to arbitration before, and it was cleared within the first 30 minutes. They found my supervisor guilty of perjury. But then again, they kind of hid that over. But fortunately, some of us recorded that meeting. It's a thing of where you have to kind of stand on your own, but you have to have your own support. You cannot always depend upon the union to come through. So right now where I am, I'm giving the union time to respond to me. But fortunately, I have another group that's supporting me financially as well, and we're going to bring in some attorneys if necessary. And we want to go ahead and target the union. Now, within the union, there are several factions that are very disappointed about the lack of concern for their needs in the workplace. Now, they have been trying to get the mayor to respond. They've been talking to board supervisors. They've been talking to many people that are in power in this city. But it seems like the responses are so slow in coming, and then when they do come, they kind of brush it over. These are serious issues. And where I am right now, I'm waiting to see. I want to be able to determine exactly what's going on with my union, and then I want to tell the rest of the members that are contacting me on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, asking me what's going on here, what's going on there. These are people I've known for years. Now, of those many people that wanted to be shop stewards, like I said, the room was full of 80 African Americans. Right now, I've seen no more than 5 of them left, and that's including myself. They've gotten disenchanted. They've left the workplace. They didn't feel they were serviced by the union. Their needs were not met, and they're gone. And the union is still giving us the same spiel, and more people are coming up thinking they can do something, but this whole conundrum needs to be exposed.
And the systemic racism in this country against African Americans, ethnic cleansing, is that going on at the Department of Public Health?
Oh, it's been going on for a while. My first real bump into it was when I reported a particular gay member of staff that was abusing and exploiting the inmates. He was touching them inappropriately. He was making little liaisons with them back there in the treatment room. And many people knew what was going on. But when you report it, they'd go hush, hush. And then later on, management would approach me. I was approached by the manager then of DPH. I cannot think of his name, but we were in forensics. And he pulled me off into an interview room, and he was telling me I needed to watch what I say. You want to hold on to your job? You need to watch what you say. And I said, well, I put this on paper, and there are witnesses. He didn't care. He told me to watch what I say, and he pointed his finger. And that's when I kind of lost my temper a little bit, and I stood up. And like I told him, nobody threatens me, okay? And he mentioned something about throwing me out of the room. Nobody throws me out of a room, okay? You have to be a bit bigger than I am. I don't like that type of intimidation tactic. If you want me to leave, I can be a gentleman. Let's do things in a gentlemanly way. But when it gets crazy, I've been trained for that. Now, right now, I want many other people that have suffered to realize that you need to get behind people that are doing something. Okay, whether it's a union, whether you know lawyers, whether you know anybody, and share this information. But until you stand up, you're going to be beat over the head every day. It's not going to change.
And the kind of intimidation and bullying, I mean, there have been many hearings in the city and county of San Francisco. Many workers, African American, Latino, Chinese workers have come forward and said there's an atmosphere, a culture of racism, discrimination, bullying. Apparently the city knows about it, and yet it continues. Why is it continuing?
That is something I cannot figure. The big word I want to use is corruption. Somebody is getting enough of an initiative to ignore these, but it's like a pot boiling over. It's not going to be contained forever. And right now, even with the turnover of workers, I notice now we're turning toward what they call these nonprofit units. And
is that union busting? Because they're doing the same work that you do at 30-40% less pay without any kind of controls, without kind of oversight that public workers have.
And without the training. Much of the training is missing. I worked in a unit over at 1380 Howard. And when I worked there, I come to find out that many of the people I was working with, well, a certain number of people, I don't know how many exact, but they had come through substance abuse programs to get these jobs. They were at the point then of where they were going to take civil service exams to be part of the city itself. Now, their pay was minimal, and many of these people that have gone through this substance abuse program, I'm saying many now, that worked on this floor, there was strange behavior from them. We had to be at work at 8:30 in the morning. I'd get there, I'd be at my desk, and you see them, they could barely make it across the floor. They'd go in the kitchen, they'd get some cereal or whatever, coffee, whatever, try and get themselves together. We'd have a meeting, and then after the meeting, they'd disappear. You wouldn't see them till about 10 o'clock. When they come back in at 10 o'clock, they're very jovial, they're lively, they're just bouncing all over. They just, can't keep their mouths closed. They're erratic. Their mental and physical behavior is really erratic. Now, I've been a nurse for a long time. I can recognize substance abuse when I see it. I would have patients that would come in and say, well, I don't use this, I don't use that. We're in a little small interview room. I'll close the door to go get their records. When you come back into the room, the smells that you get will tell you something. The fingernails will tell you something. Their motor nerve activity will tell you something, okay? Sometimes if you ask them for documents, something might fall out of their bag, something that's used for a substance. These things are very prevalent. But you see, the thing is, we've been turning our backs to this, and the problem has been growing. It's going to continue to grow. I've got 20 years in now, and some people say, well, why don't you just retire and go away? This is the problem that I dedicate my life to as a nurse. It's a health problem. It's a service problem. It's a commitment to life. And I have no intention of giving up.
And you talk about corruption. The city and county in San Francisco has paid out over $70 million to attorneys, to workers who've been illegally discharged, to attorneys for the city. Recently, an attorney for the city attorney's office was paid $3.5 million for being illegally discharged for her being a whistleblower.
I'm a whistleblower, and this is one of the reasons I've been targeted. The unit that I had worked in at the MHRC, which is the Mental Health Rehabilitation Center right there on the San Francisco General Campus, as I was applying to get in there, you have to have clearances. And I was going to apply for the clearances. You got to go through the state. And the director, Linda Sims, asked me for my credentials. She said, I'll turn them in for you. So I gave her my credentials. And at some point, she decided that she didn't need them. Just go ahead and send them to the state. I sent my credentials into the state in March. They were returned in April. I sent them in the latter part of April. They were returned in June. I sent them in June, and they were returned in July, each time saying that I was not timely enough. Well, there were no time limits put on this. So I'm figuring something is going on, and knowing how the city works, I decided to send my credentials into the director of DSS. When I sent my credentials into him, within 2 weeks, all the clearances popped right through. So it seems to me like somebody was trying to block my entrance in the unit in the first place. When I got there, I would talk with the director of nurses, at least that's what they call her, the Don, and her name escapes me, right? Ingrid Thompson, and she's of Caribbean descent, obviously. She would talk to me initially, not even knowing me, as if she's punishing a child. I'm a veteran, okay? I'm a senior citizen. And I put up with this as long as I could. And then one particular evening, when she was trying to force me to sign this document, I refused. And I told her, I said, you're in America, honey. You can't force anybody to sign the document. She said, well, if you don't sign it, I'll tell Linda. This is the way things are done. People in that building are afraid as hell of Linda Sims. I'm not afraid of Linda Sims. I'm too old to be afraid of anybody. Okay, I'm too close to the Grim Reaper. So it might as well be doing it now. But the type of things that go on inside this unit are not only illegal, they're disgusting, and they continue. And this is the way they treat people.
They wanted to kick the patients out and put them into a nonprofit facility. What was that all about? Because that's where I first met you,
yes,
when you were speaking out about being bullied there, and
yes,
they wanted to close the center. What was going on at that time?
Well, now I feel it's about a cover-up of the money that probably had been misappropriated. There were 12 to 14 beds that were empty. We were told by the director, Linda Sims, that these beds were mandated to remain empty because we couldn't have extra patients because of certain violations that we received from the state. And it went along that way for years. But then an expose was done by Mr. Joe Eskenazi, and we come to find out there had never been any sanctions against us from the state. These beds were kept empty by Linda Sims. DPH has an allotment of funds. And
$1.2 billion?
I don't know exactly what the figure is. But
it's the largest part of the city budget.
I would imagine. But these 12 beds, all of these beds represent a certain monetary amount for care of individuals that were not there. These beds were open all this time. This is taxpayer money, okay? What happened to the taxpayers' money? Why was there not an audit? I loved my contact with Matt Haney and Hillary Ronan, and they told me to do a follow-up after they left. They saved the ARF from being closed. But I do believe the reason this plan was set up to try and get rid of this entire unit down here was to cover up the money trail. Okay? It's still open. I don't see why the mayor or the board of supervisors does not audit the MHRC. I think that will reveal the whole story.
Well, these officials that are conducting in illegal activity, corruption, cover-up, illegal firing of employees, it seems like nothing happens to them. I mean, it seems like they don't get discharged, they don't be held accountable, even when they steal money from the city and county of San Francisco.
They're moved to other units. They're moved to other units.
Has that happened?
That has not happened here yet, but I imagine something like this will. It seems like Linda Sims is somewhat protected. From what I understand, she is the partner of someone that's really high up in the city ranks that works in San Francisco General. And so basically many things that have been leveled at her have not been explained. And nobody has challenged it. I'm challenging, I'm a taxpayer. I'm a veteran, okay? There is money that is allotted to people that need it. And I'm committed. I've committed my life to these people that need help. I want to know what's happened to that money. I want to know why these people have not been served and why those beds were left open all this time when it could have served people that were on the streets, that were going through substance abuse or different challenges. This is money that appears to have been misappropriated.
You find it shocking that after you spoke out publicly at that rally about bullying and about what was going on at your facility, you're fired, you're terminated illegally, and the union doesn't even respond to your email?
I found it not that surprising, given some of the things that have happened in the past. As I said, I've been here 20 years. But I'm at the point now of where I've gotten some support from some local organizations and some state organizations that I can challenge this legally. I want people to know what these agencies are doing. We're not getting much help from the mayor. We're not getting much help from the board of supervisors as far as going in and examining this thing properly. Somewhere there has to be someone, as they say, that puts the bell on the cat. So I'm figuring that sooner or later somebody will hear me and they will start moving forward. And other people that have had the same problem will start coming forward. They will contact KPOO. They will contact me. Many of them know me. They will contact various organizations. There's NAACP for one. There's various agencies that will take this information in. And once we get this stuff all lined up, we can present it to the city and say, well, where is this money? What is happening? Why are these things still going on? But it's not going to happen as long as people sit back and say, well, as long as they haven't bothered me and my check is still coming through. But at any time, that could be taken away.
Now, there's going to be a rally. You're organizing, other workers are organizing against the systemic racism, to organize collectively to use that power that working people have. Do you see that as a way of forcing the city and forcing accountability?
I would like to think it would, but then again, there's no telling what the end result will be. But I do know that we're moving in the right direction, okay? I do know that we are exposing more and more people that are part of this system that are doing illegal and corruptive acts. And once we identify them, then we want to look at our powers that be. We've got a new district attorney who I have some great hopes for. We need to put this on his desk and let him look at this, okay? These people should be subject to the same laws that us civilians are, but they have not been in the past. And frankly, because one hand washes the other, once we get one good person nailed, they're going to fall like dominoes, and that's why they hold on so tight, okay? Because they've all got something on each other.
Now, the pandemic that's taking place, COVID-19 that's taking place, has led to massive cancellation of conventions. The airline industry may face bankruptcy.
Yes.
Airlines. This is going to have a catastrophic effect
It's having a catastrophic effect now,
on
yes.
the world and in San Francisco. And the mayor, even before this, said she wanted to cut the city budget 7% of frontline workers like yourselves and others. What does that mean for the future of working people, of nurses, of professionals, when we have a pandemic, when we need more workers to take care of the people and the public in San Francisco?
I see a worsening of this situation. Right now, nurses have not got the equipment that they need to protect themselves. You heard the information that we got from UCSF. They are reusing the N19 mask. This mask is not meant to be reused. We should have these products available to us, because if you have a nurse that's protecting a certain clientele and she gets sick, well, that leaves a spot to where other nurses have to fill in. And we're getting nurses sick. We have conditions in some of our facilities, like MHRC, where I work on the third floor. So visitors come in, and if anyone was infected, it would spread like wildfire. We had a couple of infections already to where you couldn't go on this floor if you had been there before and stuff like that. But they have not improved those conditions to stop this type of infectious behavior. They did no improvements. They just told people that, okay, if you feel sick or if you were on this floor at this specific time, do not come in for 3 or 4 days, and that's to test your symptoms. Now, we got past that, but that was not getting past it therapeutically. That was just removing people and hoping it got better, but the same conditions exist, and now we've got a worse situation. We've got a virus that's spiraling out of hand. It's a pandemic. One of the things that terminating me did was that it removed me from a dangerous area. I got to look at it that way. I got to look at it both ways. I feel sorry for my friends, other nurses, and other staffers that are there. They are on the front lines, and they're not prepared.
So this is a health and safety emergency, as far as you're concerned, for healthcare workers and for the public and for the patients at that facility.
Absolutely, for everyone there. I come to find out something else that was rather disturbing. I was talking with a member last night, and we have certain patients, if you will, that came from the jail system, came from the prison system. They have psychological issues, they have substance abuse issues, and they're in this environment. You mix inmates with civilians, they're used to a different type of lifestyle. It's more like the survival of the fittest. Okay, I've worked in the prisons, and I've been able to communicate with some of these individuals, and they have lessened their behavior. But then again, I've been trained for this. Now we have older civilians that have been in the mental health rehabilitation center, and they're older and they can barely get back from their room to the table. And the reason they've hung on to these guys is because they have really good insurance. They pay well. But these guys have been subject to abuse. And when it's been reported to staffers like Ingrid Thompson or Linda Sims, they will take the report supposedly. There'll be nothing in writing. They won't appreciate what you said. But the situation remains the same. Now, some of these older members have been removed, and I'm going to wind up having to talk to some of the state agencies about this, because these guys were openly abused. I mean, hit, or somebody would come in their room at night, or somebody would take their food. One particular staffer, she had food just thrown in her face. Nothing was done. There are certain common areas that should have videos to protect the staffer, to protect the patients. But we've been told by Linda Sims you can't have them because you'd be violating their privacy. Not in common areas. In their rooms, yes. In bathrooms, yes. In private areas, yes. But in common areas, why haven't these cameras been installed? Why haven't these safety devices been installed? There are no panic buttons, okay? But the reason I feel that they have not been installed or put in place is because this money has been used some other way. If you're going to have a unit that's going to be effective, you have to invest in it. You have to invest in changes that are needed. You have to be able to take information of things that are not working, and you might have to make alterations. These things are not evident at all in the MHRC run by Linda Sims.